Well, it's that glorious time of the year. I love Christmas time. I love all that surrounds that. I love the holidays, Thanksgiving, and time with family, friends. It's just a magical time of the year. It really is. I don't think you can say that enough. But outside of Christmas, the holidays, and that fun time of year with family and friends, it's also one of the last months that is open to hunt deer in a lot of states. You know, we'll talk about January hunting tips, January deer hunting fails, things like that, but really it's winding down. But like I've said before in our snowstorm video we have, if you haven't seen that yet, and other videos talk about the second rut and the snow that was coming in with that, the weather alert that we had for the second rut. It's just a great time to be in the woods. So many memories going past because I hunted all the way to the end of December every year. I tried to manage my tags as such when I was a teenager in Michigan in my early 20s so that I could still hunt all the way to the end of the season, or I was driving deer for people. We had bows, small woodlots, Thumb area, Michigan. Just a fun time. We have a lot of pictures. I hunted with a lot of different people during those times. We just had a fun time together hunting. And, that's what it's all about. So when I think December, I think snow, I think of a lot of family and fun and friends hunting, and so it brings back special memories, and I hope it does for you. But let's talk about making some memories, shooting some big bucks during this time and what it takes to hunt big bucks. Number one, you really need to find or create, if you have private land, those low pressure hot spots. I'm looking for some place that has good winter food, fall food, especially when there's snow and there's those temperatures that create snow. Deer are looking for their winter habitat, which isn't necessarily the fall habitat. That's why I like to scout in January, right after the season's done, as opposed to March or February, because the sign you see in February and March might indicate more winter cover, not necessarily where they were in November. Because if it's a really cold winter and there's a lot of snow, deer will gravitate to areas that aren't reflective of October and November hunting, your typical big times to actually hunt. So when you're looking for December areas to hunt, you're looking for low pressure pockets of great food and great cover. Those are hard to find. But on public land, you'll find that there's a lot of open space. Yeah, I know areas like Ohio, Michigan, there's areas where those states do a great job of timbering, managing clear cuts. They have rotations. That's all great, especially a lot better than federal lands. Federal lands, if you're up north and you're in the extreme states, look for those migration routes. I love hunting migration routes. And I find that a lot of those deer are moving either early morning or right before dark, even in those migration areas, and they're taking a break during the day. When it's really good, you have snow that's blasted, really settles them down, really pushes them down. Blizzard comes through for a couple days. Boy, when it moderates and it's sunny and cold during the middle of the day, they can be really moving on those migration routes then in the middle of the day, because that's when it opens up. So look for those opportunities, but you're really looking for those hidden pockets on private land, public land, that have high stem count. You're looking for hardwood regeneration, a lot of briars, shrubs, conifer mixed in. Basically, the more bedding components you have. I wrote an article in the Quality Whitetails, the QDMA, long ago about the 4 bedding components of briars, grasses, weeds, shrubs, hardwood regeneration, and conifer. You get those 4 taking place in one spot in December on public land, you're going to find some great deer hunting, and that'll drastically narrow it down to a very small percentage of the overall landscape, because there's not a lot of diversity on public land in general. On private land, you're looking for those combinations, or at least 3 out of 4, but you're also adding great food. If someone else has great food a mile away, you can expect those deer to be gone. That's why we're looking for some random mature bucks to come in December, because we have good food, we have relatively good cover, we're waiting for those deer to come. So you're looking for a low pressure though. Think about it. Deer have been really hunter pressured, and the areas that don't have a lot of hunter pressure really stick out, and it doesn't take a lot of acreage. We're hunting a 30-acre parcel of woods and cover. At least that's the cover portion of it. It's about 52 acres with houses, barns, horse pasture, open fields, our food plots. But really, as far as cover where it holds deer, it's very small. But deer can gravitate to that this time of year if they have good food, and it's not been pressured, and they have decent cover. So very few areas in the landscape, thousands of acres at a time, are not pressured in some areas, and it only takes a small pocket. If you don't believe me, think about some of the metro parks or public parks in the area that might only be 20, 30 acres, but it's full of deer because people don't hunt there, and people aren't hiking and walking and using that land typically during the wintertime, especially December and later. So as deer gravitate to those low pressure areas, and if they're surrounded by neighborhoods, they have food after dark, get into gardens, bird feeders, shrubs, whatever, my ornamental shrubs. I remember one time I saw in New Jersey, they were talking about deer kill numbers, car related, but they're estimating that every landowner or subdivision owner had around $2,000 in ornamental shrub damage or ornamental planting damage around their houses, because most of those great plantings that go around your house and landscaping, deer love to eat. So if there's a lot of deer, they'll eat it, and that becomes a great winter food source at the same time. So, but low pressure, great food, great habitat, you'll find the deer. Now, number two, we monitor our scrapes, and this is very critical. I actually took the risk to go into an area that Dylan and I hunted last night and changed out some batteries and a card and 3 cameras, made sure they were all going, because they were on scrapes, on fresh scrapes, and those batteries ran out. They're render cell cameras, and I think we put those out in July, so they lasted for several months, but there's always a limit on that, especially cell cameras. I went in there and changed the batteries, started getting pictures right away of deer on those scrapes, and it's very important. That was something I love to monitor, whether I'm walking in and looking at it, yep, there's fresh scrapes, because that tells us when the second rut starts. That second rut's going to begin early December. Like right now, we're creating this video on December 2nd in the southeast Minnesota, southwest Wisconsin, southern Michigan, over into southern New York, northern Pennsylvania. You know, on that line, that's about that time the second rut's beginning. And if you're a little further south, you get down into Missouri, over into southern Illinois, Kentucky, North Carolina, West Virginia. If you get in that line, then that second rut is starting more for you in middle of December, third week of December. But how do you know the second rut's beginning? Well, other than seeing deer out there on your stand chasing, just watch your scrapes. If you have some scrapes you can go into and just monitor closely, make sure your trail cameras, this time of year, to tell if the second scrape or the second rut is going on, you can put one camera on a scrape on a 40-acre parcel and know that those bucks are starting to move, because around here we find that for about 2 weeks since the middle of November, they're not hitting the scrapes. And it's not because they're rutting all over and they're running around, it's because the rut's not going on. By the time it gets to mid-November around here, the rut's over, not beginning. So at least during daylight activity, at least them hitting the scrapes. I'm not saying there's not breeding taking place here and there, but to a large degree it is over. So for a couple weeks, no scrape use. And then all of a sudden the last few days, the last couple days of November, early December, they're hitting the scrape. So very critical. We talk about mock scrapes. People say, I still get comments where people say, what's that stick hanging down that the deer is licking? Well, if you look at my mock scrape playlist, there's over 40 videos on that. I think close to 50 videos that detail how we use mock scrapes, how we create them. Been doing the same thing for many years. And it's how we inventory all our bucks. And it's why we rarely see a random buck. You know, probably less than 5% throughout the year, 10% are bucks that we've never seen before. We rarely shoot one we've never seen before because we're watching them on scrapes. If you're putting a corn pile out, do you get educated to what a corn pile is? The mature bucks don't hit bait and things like that. If you're not hiding your cameras when you're putting them out to monitor areas, if you're just putting out a stick and facing a corn pile, you're gonna get a very low percentage of deer hitting those areas. So really, scrape monitoring is awesome for inventory, but also seeing when the second rut is beginning in December in your area. Always think the next spot is the best spot. What I mean by that is I always talk about your favorite tree stand should be the next stand you shoot a big buck out of, not the last. And it's no different with December deer hunting. You can have traditional rutting areas that are the same every year. And so that property, that location is always going to be good. But when it comes to December, you might have those areas you hunted in October, November, and they're great, and you hold on to them all December long, and you just kind of really pound yourself to death with no results and no success, and you almost give up because it's December and you're not seeing much. It pays to move. It pays to look for the sign. Snow is great because it tells you literally black and white if you have a great spot or not. If you don't, make sure you go find the deer, because the tracks will show you where the deer are. We used to do that in a thumb area, late 80s, early 90s. We literally would go around in the fresh snow and look at the little woodlots we could hunt and see which woodlots had tracks leading to them from that morning. That meant that those deer were in that woodlot and we could hunt those deer as they came out in the afternoon. It was a pretty easy concept, but it wasn't so easy in the first years of hunting in the 80s, where we just walk into any woodlot thinking there's going to be good deer because we saw good rubs and scrapes in there during the fall, and we're going to find December deer. That wasn't the way it was. We found those deer were almost like caribou, where they migrated from area to area and woodlot to woodlot during that time of year. So it pays to monitor. It pays to keep looking and making sure you're hunting fresh sign, especially during that time of year, especially when you have snow. Very easy to do so, and when you combine it with monitoring your scrapes, even easier. Food. I wrote food really big right here. Cover, small. It's not that cover is a bad thing. You have to have cover, but if you don't have the food during this time of year, you're not going to have deer. It doesn't matter what the cover is. You need to have adequate cover. Around here we have hills. Deer can get out of the weather by just simply dropping down 100 feet in elevation, sitting on a bench. They might not have great cover, but they're out of the wind and they have thermal protection. It doesn't matter if they're facing the south or getting the sun. That's an old myth. They need to get out of the wind. If it's 12 degrees and you have a heavy south wind and they're facing the sun in the morning as it's coming up and getting in the middle of the day, they're going to freeze. They're going to get their ears frostbit. They can't be exposed. So a lot of times you'll find deer on the shady side of the ridge just because they're getting out of the northwest winds. I hope that makes sense. Or the heavy south winds. We have a bowl that faces north. We have a point on the east and west side. When there's northwest winds, the deer can tuck back into the corner and get out of the northwest winds. They're tucking back in the southwest corner of the bowl. When we have heavy south winds, the ridge is up top and high, it keeps them. When they have heavy east winds, they're protected. Unless there's a straight north or northeast wind that goes directly into that bowl, those deer are protected. And we find that even though it's a north-facing bowl, we get consistent bedding use, and there's one right next to it that gets consistent bedding use because it's out of the wind, not necessarily sunny. In fact, the food plots in those locations get frozen out, shaded out, because as the sun dips lower in the sky, the southern sky, as the season progresses, there's more shade on those plots, and the shade that those plots needed to grow on during the summer is not there. It stays icy. But we still find deer there because they're out of the elements. So always keep looking. And always think you find that food, you're going to find the deer. Find the hot spot on public land. Find that diversity, you will find the deer. Then you find the closest adequate cover. And that gives you the whole system of bedding here, feeding there. And it gives you a stand assemblage then where you can hunt in the morning, afternoon, evening. Different approaches, especially when you have thousands of acres to work with on a particular public land parcel. Great, find the food, find the deer, great strategy that you can live by in December. And finally, how to stay warm. So many people get into December, that's a big crutch, big handicap for people to look at and say, I don't want to go out in December, I'm gonna get cold. I hate getting cold, and I don't blame you. I find the older I get, the more I get chilled, I think, and the more I can't stand it. I don't know why. I know for one thing, my diabetes with my feet, late adult onset type 1 diabetes, my feet, the blood doesn't circulate as well, and my feet get colder. But bottom line is, when it comes to staying warm in the deer stand, we've created lots of videos for you to stay warm, and especially we had 2 videos for staying warm in November. I hope you guys can check those out. Use that search function on YouTube. I can go into a big list of head, hands, and feet, how to keep those warm, your base layers, quality clothing, talk about some of the tricks. Look up tricks for staying warm in the deer stand. That was one of ours in November. Staying warm in the deer stand, another one. We've had videos in the past. It's all the same concepts. But I encourage you, if you want a more detailed look into how to stay warm in the deer stand and survive those sits, then make sure just to search on YouTube and check those out. Bottom line, have a great December deer hunt. The season's not over. There's an incredible amount of opportunity. I shoot a lot of mature bucks during December, especially those muzzleloader seasons that are happening in upper Midwest right now. We're going out with a muzzleloader tonight in Minnesota. We were out in Wisconsin last night. Again, blessed to be able to hunt both those states. But we're looking for continuing to hunt for about 10 days here in either Minnesota or Wisconsin. Wisconsin runs out in about 6 days, so the time is shrinking there. But great time to hunt. Don't miss December. There's still an incredible amount of opportunity. And always watch the weather. Make sure you're hunting like we talk about, the weather sit alerts that we have. And of course, we're using, and I help develop HuntCast through HuntWise. So always check that out. That'll steer you in the right direction for not only December, but for the entire deer hunting season. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.